Well, we're in session number 9, our final session in Nahum, looking at verses 12 through 19 of chapter 3. Title, evidently appropriately, The End. The end to our study, the end to Nineveh, the end to Assyria. So, we're in the final verses of Nahum's book. Let's see what Nahum says Nineveh awaits. You think we've seen enough of that? Well, he wants to make it absolutely certain that Nahum or Nineveh understands what's coming. He tells Nineveh how fruitless, how fruitless their leadership, military power, and their physical defenses are to be. Against men, yes. Against Yahweh, no way. Nahum 3:12. All your fortifications are fig trees. It's a funny sounding metaphor. All your fortifications are fig trees with ripe fruit. What does that mean? You shake the tree and the fruit falls. You shake the walls fall. And the last part of verse 12 says, when shaken, they fall into the eater's mouth. In other words, this is going to fall when your defenses fall, when your walls fall. They're going to fall in a way to favor Babylon, Mede, and Scythian. Nahum has just told Nineveh that their moat and walls will be shaken and fall down as easily as ripe fruit, and ripe figs are shaken off the tree to be harvested. And her military, look at verse 13. Behold, your people, that's your soldiers, are women in your midst. Ladies, don't take offense. That's just a way of saying your soldiers are effeminate now. They see the end is close. They're going to take off running. The gates of your land are opened wide to your enemies because of the flooding, of course, which took out the walls. Fire consumes your gate bars. Remember, flood and fire were the two principal elements of their defeat. Your military and leadership are effeminate, and your walls of no concern to the enemy. The enemy doesn't know this is going to happen necessarily, but they're not worried. They're going to take them on. God's going to wipe out the walls. They'll step across the stubble and start killing. Nineveh's fortresses crumble. They crumble easily before the Babylonians, the Medes, and the Scythians. Actually, they're crumbling before Yahweh. Your men have lost courage and are lions no more. A condition often on when Yahweh is clearly at work. Forces that would seem to be dominant, they don't worry Yahweh one single bit. Look at Isaiah 19:16. In that day, the Egyptians will be like women and tremble with fear before the hand, so that Yahweh of hosts shakes over them. That the Yahweh of hosts shakes over them. So they say when Yahweh shakes his hand over you, you're going to fear. You're going to be like women. You're going to be effeminate. You're not going to have any courage. That's not to denigrate women. It's just simply to make a point about the leadership of the men who are to be the protectors, the military, and so on. Jeremiah 50, verse 37. No, that's a different Orange Crush. It's not the same one from last time. Wouldn't last that long around me. A sword against her, this is Babylon's horses, and against her chariots, Babylon's chariots, and against all the foreign troops in Babylon's midst, that they may become like women. So, God said, when I get in there and shake things up, Babylon's troops are going to be running for the hills. And Jeremiah 51:30, the warriors of Babylon have ceased fighting. They remain in their strongholds. They ain't coming out for no one. Their strength has failed. They have become like women. So when God is involved, I don't care how courageous the soldiers appear to be, when they're up against Yahweh, they're going to end up running. Continuing the mocking tone, Nahum advises Nineveh with his tongue in his cheek. Look at verse 14. Draw for yourselves water for the siege. Water is critical to outlasting a force that's surrounding you and besieging you. Strengthen your fortifications. He knows this is not going to do anything. He's taunting them now. Go into the clay and tread the mortar. What's that about? Well, there didn't have a lot of stone in Assyria's region, so their walls had to be made out of bricks. And what are bricks made out of? Clay. And you go into the clay, you tread the clay to make the mortar for the bricks. The bricks have already been made and hopefully kiln fired so that they're hard as stone. And then you will tread the mortar and put the stones in place. So it's the idea, go make sure you fix your walls because they're coming down. You have to build them back up quickly. No, it ain't going to happen. Take hold of the brick mold. So keeping up the nagging, taunting there. Go get plenty of water. Fix your fortifications up. You got to fix those walls. So get you plenty of bricks. Get you plenty of mortar mixed up. Go into the clay. Tread the mortar. Make the clay. Make the mortar. Take hold of the brick molds and make bricks if you have to. Put mortar in between the bricks if you have to, but fix those walls. It's not going to do any good. Verse 14 takes a minute or two, as I said, to make sense of it, but when a siege is imminent, a store of water is within the city of absolutely necessary for survival. Assyrians, remember, in Jerusalem, they built a wall, and not a wall, they built a well and then a canal for the well to run to other places so that they would have water within the walls, not have to go out or try and get it ahead of time. They would have it all the time. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, Assyrians were noted for repairing walls even during a siege. But since no quantity of stone was available in the region, they had to make bricks for repair of the wall. They had to make mortar from clay to set the bricks in place. Thus the statements about clay, the basic element in brick making and mortar making. Nahum had already indicated that all preparations for defense were of no use. Go back to chapter 2, verse 7. And it's fixed. She, Nineveh, is stripped. She is carried away. Her handmaids are moaning like the sound of doves, which sound like lamenting. beating on their breasts. So he said it's a done deal, folks. There's going to be mourning around. And back in 110, he even said this, like tangled thorns and like those who are drunken with their drink, they, the Ninevites, are consumed as stubble. There's the fire again, completely withered. So he had already told us in chapter 1 and told us again in chapter 2, your efforts at defense are useless. When Yahweh is there, it's of no consequence. Excuse me. Nahum, then he's going to return to the notion of fire as a ravaging agent. That's where we just saw about the stubble. Fire burns stubble quickly. Verse 15. There fire will consume you. The sword will cut you down. It will consume you as the locust does. The locust, of course, eats everything edible in its path. Multiply yourself like the creeping locust. He said, procreate quickly enough to make yourself like a horde. Yeah, that's not going to work either. Multiply yourselves like the swarming locust. It just keeps it up. Now Nahum brings in the locust as a metaphor for the damage that is soon to be experienced in Nineveh. I guess that Nahum rather, is ridiculing the Assyrians by insisting that they increase their numbers as quickly as the locusts do, knowing, of course, that can't happen and would make no difference in any case. The number of people involved is not of a great concern for Yahweh. No matter what Nineveh does, it will be no match for Yahweh and his decreed judgment. The Ninevites are told to prepare and then told to wait to be overrun. Prepare, yes, but you're going to be overrun, devastated with nothing left. Look at Amos 7:1. This is what the Lord God showed me. This is Amos talking to the northern kingdom. I don't know, many of you probably remember that Amos is kind of an odd duck because he's from the south. He's from the south of Judah, as a matter of fact, about as far south as he can get in Israel. And yet he goes to the northern kingdom to prepare them for judgment. Behold, let me get started again. This is what the Lord God showed me. Behold, he was forming locusts. These locusts, he said, that are coming, they're his locusts. When the latter growth was just beginning to sprout. In other words, this is the last go around for anything to harvest in this year. And behold, it was the latter growth. And this is, he's preparing locusts to come into this latter growth. So what are they going to do? They're going to eat it. And he said, this is after the king's mowing. The king's got everything he wants. Now the rest, you were hoping that the next mowing would be for you. Well, there ain't going to be no next mowing because the locusts are going to get it. There would be no further harvest that year. The locusts have taken it all. Assyria had many trading partners. I'm moving on now to verses 16 and 17. Assyria had a whole ton of trading partners who helped make her prosperous. Now look at how they also will turn on her. So Nahum 3:16 and 17. Nineveh, you have increased your traitors more than the stars of heaven. The creeping locust strips and flies away. Whew. Your guardsmen are like the swarming locusts. Who are the first creeping locusts? I believe it's those traitors that got Nineveh rich. They're now in there grabbing anything they can before she loses it all. And their soldiers, their guardsmen, they're like swarming locusts also. They're taking all they can as they run. Your marshals are like hordes of grasshoppers settling in the stone walls on a cold day. What's that all about? Well, during the day when it's warm, these grasshoppers are out eating everything in sight. But when it's night and it gets cold, they settle on walls. They cling to walls while it's cold. Maybe the walls have some heat in them. But anyhow, it says settling in the stone walls on a cold day, the sun rises and they flee. So if they're hanging around, it's only because they're waiting for the right chance to escape. And the place where they are is not known. Where they're going to, you don't have a clue. So everything that you're learning, the people dealing with your prosperity, the people dealing with your protection, the people dealing with your running of the country, they're all sucking everything out of the country and taking off. They devour everything in sight, cling to a warm wall during the cool night, only to move out for more feeding under the morning sun. All is turning against Nineveh, everything. Nineveh's power goes to naught from where? From within. Because these are all people within the city. People responsible for the city and its existence. Verse 18, your shepherds are sleeping. The people leading you, they're not leading. O king of Assyria, your nobles are lying down. The people that are responsible for running the government and the secular government, they're down there somewhere doing something else. They ain't governing. They're not leading. Your people are scattered to the mountains. Your people know the conditions. They're taking off. There's no one to regather them. Notice that. Secular, religious, those guys are sleeping at the wheel. Your nobles of influence likewise are failing to lead, advise, and protect. The people of Nineveh are being scattered, fleeing, even exiled, with no one to regather them. Why is he throwing that in? That's in their face. Because every time we see Israel scattered, what does God say? I will regather them one day. He made a promise to Israel that one day there will be a total regathering. All hope for an existing city, an existing Nineveh, and a vibrant nation, the nation Assyria, all hope for that, either of those, gone. It will exist. Nineveh will exist no more forever. Assyria will exist no more forever. As a matter of fact, it's virtually impossible to find someone of Assyrian descent. I'm not sure you can't, but it ain't easy, and there are not many, if any. All is waste. It will not recover. It ain't going to come back. Nahum 3:19, the last verse of this short book. There is no relief for your breakdown. Your wound is incurable. You talk about hopeless. All who hear about you will clap their hands over you. The people who hear what's happening to you are going to be happy, dancing, singing, clapping, rejoicing, making mirth, making merry. For on whom has not your evil passed continually? For several hundred years you've been oppressing people with your evil continually. Now, all of those you have oppressed in the past are going to take great delight at your demise. Not only will Nineveh not even exist again, it cannot exist again. It cannot re-exist. Why? Because God said, never again. But everyone else will find that to be good news. Your demise is good news to everyone other than yourself. Singing, dancing, rejoicing. Happiness, glee, and rejoicing over Nineveh's loss will be a powerful antidote to the oppression of that evil, violent nation. How do you want to get rid of something like Assyria was? Wipe them off the face of the earth. The oppression by Assyria is over, gone forever, but for Yahweh's own people, let me go back to Nahum 1:7. Yahweh is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who take refuge in him. Remember what Nahum just said? You're not going to find anybody who will mourn you, who will grieve over you, who will look to console you, who will look to comfort you. You're not going to find anyone like that. Israel always has Yahweh there. Well, our tour of Nahum has come to an end. For our next adventure, we'll complete coverage of the last of the dozen minor prophets as we study Jonah. Remember, Nineveh is a sequel to Jonah 100 years later. So now we're going to go back another 100 years in time, and we're going to look at Jonah, the great fish, Jonah's obstinance. It's all there, folks, and we're going to see. That's why I asked last time. This is a question to think about. If Jonah were still alive and read Nahum, what would have been his reaction?